There are watches that you recognize as watches, and then there are watches that are a little bit mad. Guess which kind of watch we're looking at today? Hey guys, welcome back to another hands-on session with the WorldTempus showcase. Today we have with us a couple of watches that I feel very sentimental about, and you'll see why in just a few seconds. I don't use the split screen mode often, even though it is my favorite function in the showcase, but I'm gonna use it now because, as I said, how I feel about these watches on a personal level is kind of the whole point. Now, collectors and enthusiasts all over the world have gone crazy over these pieces, and if you know what these watches are about, you'll understand as well. They're made by the same guys behind one of the most noteworthy and impactful independent brands in modern watchmaking, a brand called MB&F. Part of MB&F's activities include the M.A.D Gallery, a space where you can buy MB&F creations, of course, but also art. The collection in there is extremely diverse, and their only link is that they're all somehow related to representations of mechanical craft. These watches we have here today are not by MB&F exactly. They come under the M.A.D Gallery identity, and this is reflected in their price range, which is just under 3,000 Swiss francs, whereas for MB&F prices, we're looking more at a six-figure number. The M.A.D Editions, as these watches are called, still bear the signature touch of the MB&F's founder, Max Büsser, and his creative team, in the sense that they're highly expressive and not necessarily the most practical way to tell the time. But you can see that this shape here, which forms the winding rotor of the movement, is definitely related to the winding rotors you see in MB&F creations. So you can definitely see the family resemblance if you're already familiar with the stuff that Max Büsser does. Some of you might be wondering, okay, great, it's a cool piece of mechanical craft, but how do I read the time? We have what's called a driver's watch time indication here, which means that the time is displayed in an alternative configuration that suggests easy reading when you're driving. You can see that when the watch is on the wrist, positioned at an angle, as you would when you've got your hands on your steering wheel. The time display is at a convenient angle for your eyes. You read the hours and minutes according to this little arrow marker right here at the bottom edge of the watch, and I'm going to pull the crown out so you can see how the time advances. So we're now at a time reading of 8:21, goes forward, 8:25 we just passed, 8:30, 8:35, and 8:55, and now we're at 9 o'clock. The first M.A.D edition, the M.A.D one, this version here in blue, was launched last summer, totally under the radar without any official communication around it. And this was deliberate because Max saw this watch as a little gift, like a little present to acknowledge and thank the people who had been a part of the MB&F journey, but didn't necessarily have the means to acquire an MB&F, which, as I mentioned before, has a pretty substantial price tag. The brand name MB&F stands for Maximilian Büsser and Friends, pointing to the open and transparent approach that MB&F takes regarding the various suppliers and external artisans they work with. This is shown by the engraving on the back of their watch, where you can see created for our friends. If you want to know who these friends with the capital F are, one way is to take a look at the official photos that are issued with each MB&F launch. Apart from watch photos, you usually find also a collage of all the friends who worked on that piece. MB&F privately contacted all their friends to tell them, look, we've made this watch, it's at a much more accessible price than our usual stuff, and we're only making this watch available to a very small group of people who have been a key part of the MB&F journey. And I know this because I have the honor of being one of those friends. I've mentioned this a few times before, but the reason I'm in the watch world in the first place is because of MB&F. Another version of the first M.A.D edition in blue had the engraving, "It's a mad world," like on this one. You can see, it's a mad world. And this was made available only to members of the tribe, consisting of current MB&F owners. So here's the thing. If you're not making a watch available to the public, generally it's not a good idea to do a whole communications campaign about it, because what's the point? People just get upset about not being able to get one. And that's kind of what happened, because of course when friends and members of the tribe started receiving their watches, they were super excited and posted photos on social media. And then other people kind of felt bad that they weren't given the opportunity to have one, because trust me, there are a lot of people who adore MB&F but probably can't afford one of their watches. And these guys, they weren't aware that this was a really small, limited thing for a very specific reason. Max told me they weren't even sure that they would continue making M.A.D editions after the first one. But eventually, after receiving a ton of messages from people saying, "I really need this watch in my life, please make another one that we can actually buy," they did it. So earlier this year, the second M.A.D one was announced, this time in red, with a regular cylindrical crown instead of the bow crown that you see on the previous one. MB&F essentially emailed everyone individually who messaged them, telling them, "We heard you and we've made a second one, and here's a link that will take you to our e-shop to purchase your own M.A.D one watch." So they did make enough watches for the people who had written in after the first M.A.D edition. But on top of that, they made another 450 watches for everyone else to be allocated by lottery. Now, clearly I love MB&F. I have a very, very close relationship with the brand and the people there. But if there's one thing they need to work on, it's accurately estimating how popular their creations can be. In this lottery, to get one of the 450 remaining M.A.D one watches in red, this one over here, 22,000 people signed up. The original number was actually much higher, but there were a bunch of bots and scammers who signed up, so obviously that needed to be cleaned up. Anyway, if you were one of those 22,000 people, you basically had a 2% chance of getting a watch. It wasn't exactly great odds, but then MB&F did recognize that they had vastly underestimated the demand for the M.A.D one. So if you weren't among that 2% of people who got lucky in the M.A.D one lottery, you probably received an email saying, "Hey guys, the last thing we want is to disappoint our amazing community of fans, so we're working really hard to get more of these watches produced by early next year," which is, I think that's pretty cool. I can't really think of any other major watch brand that's this reactive to their audience. Now, let's get into some of the specs of this watch. One of the most fun things that you can do with the M.A.D one is go like this. The rotor doesn't spin as easily in the other direction because it's a unidirectional winding rotor, which was important for Max. He wanted that same crazy high velocity spin that you got in the MB&F Horological Machine 3 or the Aquapod. There aren't a lot of good quality mechanical time-only movements with unidirectional winding. Most of them tend to be bidirectional for obvious reasons. The M.A.D one is based on a Miyota 821A, which helps to keep the watch at a reasonable price, and I think that's important for everyone. Lateral time display, as we mentioned before, with hour and minute rings in aluminium, so they're as light as possible. It's in steel, 42 millimeters in diameter and 18.8 millimeters in height, which some people might say is too big. But if that's how you think, then you're probably not the kind of person who would wear a Max Büsser creation anyway. Sapphire crystal over the dial, and mineral glass for the case, because sapphire crystal in this shape would put the price of this watch way beyond its current level. Lastly, the super luminova accents. This is a lot of fun. The numerals are filled with superluminova as well as the outer segments on the rotor, which makes this watch a blast to wear in the dark or in places with ultraviolet lighting. So that's it for our session with the M.A.D Edition watches. I hope you guys found it interesting. Do like this video and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more content like this. And I'm going to leave you guys with the M.A.D one doing what it does best. Mesmerizing everyone it comes across.